the RawDao is always catching lightning in a bottle. And that's exactly how I want people to see us, because I am so serious when it comes to keeping your eyes open, seeing what's happening, learning, and then preparing so that you can use what you just learned to be successful.
Today, the space is still very niche. It's very nerdy. Even handling like multiple tokens and stuff is like, it's a mess.
We are super honored and excited to bring you a brilliant and inspiring people on our podcast today.
We have Louis from Twoplus DAO and Makasso from RawDao on this episode. We're really excited because it's going to be all about DAOs. Twoplus DAO is a mental fitness cloud for DAO contributors, and RawDao pretty much educates, networks, and transforms physical to digital. We're going to talk with them about the current learning experiences from founding a DAO, the key ingredients for a good DAO, community management, where they see DAO structures evolving in the future, and many more.
Hey, Makasso and Louis, we are super happy you could take the time, and we're happy to start this special episode of Newforum.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much. Excited to be here again.
So we are on the topic of DAOs, and we are super honored to have you guys with us. So Makasso and Louis, could you briefly tell us about what made you want to start a DAO, and what was kind of the mission that you were like, okay, I'm going to focus on DAOs?
Sure. So when I first was starting the RawDao, I'll just kind of kick that off. I kind of started with my own personal ambition of wanting to go physical to digital. And you guys know I love wearing my tie-dye t-shirts. So this is another one that I made. And it started with a normal NFT. And I made an NFT and I wanted to include a physical item with the NFT because I've seen how NFTs could really transform business models. And so as I started to kind of go down my own journey, I realized that this was something that everybody could really benefit from by having NFTs connected with physical goods and really start taking their businesses to the next level that I've seen would really be able to help their businesses be successful and withstand a lot of the transitions that we're moving through. So with that, then you start, attracting people and wanting to educate more people and networking with people. And then you start to see these other tools that are things called DAOs and how you guys can continue to organize and continue to put on real events. So seeing that, I was in another DAO already. That was a great example on how DAO should be organized. And it also empowered artists to be able to have smart contracts and understand how to start a DAO or how to, kind of be independent and self-sovereign, as you would say, within the space. So starting out that way was really great. Again, building a whole team of people with that same mission and then going from there.
Yeah. On my end, I mean, I've been in the space for a while now, for like 3 years and a half, focusing on DAOs mainly and doing a lot of like community management work. Thinking about DAO design, mostly like I'm really passionate about like, making DAOs better places to work. Kind of like centering around this issue of like mental health through various perspectives. And yeah, more recently, I went and started Twoplus with a bunch of other people who are passionate about the same things, making DAOs more human. And yeah, we were really concerned on, just like making DAOs a good experience for people and actually an incrementally better place to work compared to, what we already know, which we think isn't really, DAOs have massive upsides, but they also have massive downsides at this point that go with them. And gradually over time, we decided to kind of like start focusing on individuals and train individuals themselves through this concept of mental fitness, which goes beyond just mental health and takes mental fitness with, this kind of like intentional approach where basically just the same way you're going to have like a physical fitness practice when you're an athlete or willing to do sports, you're going to have the same kind of intention with your mental health and with many different tools, both like high level strategy, both like working on yourself, being coached, but also just like practicing and working on your brain health through things like meditation, breath work, a flow, and all these different techniques that already exist out there. We're trying to put into Web3. Yeah, we're just like trying to like shape the culture of, you know, what's contributing to a DAO, and the lifestyle that goes with it, and inject mental fitness in the mix. So yeah, we'll be running our first cohort in July. So that'll be a fun experiment. We're excited. We have a bunch of interesting people joining. So yeah.
Louis, you're more focused on mental fitness, mental health, kind of in the DAO, and Makaso, you're doing more of like helping people sort of translate your physical to digital, you know, like find purpose with your kind of work in this digitally charged era. And I find that really fascinating. And I'm going to throw this question at both of you, and I want to hear your thoughts on that. So we had this guest who said that projects within DAOs never get executed.
I haven't seen Lee unmute yet, so I've kind of been like gauged in there. So I'll just kind of kick it off again. But I actually felt the contrary, honestly, since we've started. And I think that is because, you know, being the founder of an idea like this, I was very intentional with that because we're not about quantity. We don't want to onboard the whole entire world. Our community is that community that wants to learn and then give back what they learn as well to the next. So that's why we even represent ourselves with an apple, you know, because it starts with the seed, and you plant the seed, and then you nurture that seed, and then it grows to a tree where you get another apple, but then you have to replant that seed once you get that apple as well. So kind of putting that underlying purpose in every single thing that we do, we end up attracting a lot of people that also want to educate, that also want to connect. And we've also been very serious about having certain things. Although we are not the largest DAO right now, we understand the kind of connections and collaborations we want to make. So right now, in our beginning stages, because we just started January 1st of this year. So each quarter we separate by season, and we make very serious goals. Like right now, we are working on that DAO structure in general and what the governance looks like, what it looks like when the word is slipping my mind, but like our constitution, basically, right? We're writing the constitution. We have community calls every single week where we set goals and we set tasks that the entire community can kind of help us with trying to reach those goals every single week. And now that this quarter is also ending, we have like one event every quarter, which would be like every 3 months. So that is our focus. So we make it very focused and goal-oriented and encourage everyone to be a part and share their ideas with these goals. And with this season ending, we're going to have basically a survey where people can put in their ideas on what they thought this season or quarter was like and what they would like to see into the next. And that was an idea I actually got with talking to another DAO who, you know, understood that same thing on roadmaps are great, but a DAO is constantly transforming. Like we have a lot of members that weren't a part the first, you know, season 1, but we're heavily active here for season 2. So by having something as simple as a survey that can say, hey, how do you think we did this season? What are some ideas that you would like to see next season? And let's create a simple roadmap for the next 3 months, 6 months with some serious goals to accomplish some things. And then we also like to sprinkle in these events. Like right now, I told you guys we have this fashion show. So it was having the idea, having the mission, saying every single day we're meeting. And that also took me as a founder saying, I'll take a step further. And every single day this week, I will come in so that any time zone, any day that works for anybody, I can be in there so you can come in and set it up. And we have a whole build team as well that did the same this week. Meeting with every designer one-on-one, making sure they understand how to build in the metaverse, and just keeping the goals focused and tasks and deadlines and saying, this is what we're accomplishing and let's execute so that we can show people what we are about.
I just want to point the fact that, you know, DAO is a concept that encompasses very different range. I mean, a very wide range of organizations today. And it's more of a, mostly DAOs have like a governance process. They have a shared treasury. Maybe that's kind of like the main thing that, you know, characterizes them. They operate online and all that stuff. But I mean, there are this like protocol DAOs and DeFi DAOs. They're just like massive protocol algorithms that lend money or do something like that. And there are like smaller DAOs or like social DAOs or like just like human-led projects like I think Mocasso's and mine as well. Which is like basically it's just like people on the internet trying to build something. When it comes to Twoplus especially, we do not have a governance process. We do not have a treasury at this point. We're not really DAO. We want to be very intentional to take a step-by-step process towards this because from experience, like and all the DAOs that I've seen, like most of them, like we don't really have the knowledge, and I mean it's kind of like a struggle, or can be diverting your attention from actually what you're really trying to achieve initially, like to kind of like have to handle all these new parameters that we're experimenting with. So it's like very enriching and very interesting, but it can be diverting. I think that's where like coming to back to like the initial question of like basically there's inertia in DAOs, or like there is this early enthusiasm and then people don't really execute on what they said they would or what they promised. And it's true, like in many DAOs, like accountability has been an issue, and people are excited in the beginning and they're often excited. I mean, that's Web3 in this, like we're all kind of like very high on ADHD kind of behavior in this space, especially in the past 24 months in the bull market and stuff. Like there's a new thing and it's shiny and stuff, so everyone goes to it, but there are these other new things. So if you don't really retain people, if you don't really it's going to be hard. So either you have like the best projects, you have very strong incentives, lots of money, and you're going to retain people, or you have to kind of like grow more intentionally, like Lucas is doing probably. And I think what we're trying to do with Twoplus is like try to build the team gradually and see how do you build like this growth that can be sustaining. On mine, I know like from experience that people in this space are curious, they're smart, and they want to work on different projects, and it's been challenged to retain people. I mean, to just like have people working. Also, we haven't raised any funds and stuff, so people are just like working almost. I mean, they're working for some kind of rewards, tokens and stuff, but a lot of that is kind of like not really tangible in the moment. So people are working kind of benevolently, and it's hard to kind of like retain people. So I kind of like agree that there's this hype and then move on behavior in the space but like I don't think it applies to all the projects. And I think that's where like a lot of eventually we'll fall back on a lot of things that work in the real world. I mean, real world, quote unquote, to say like there's the more traditional organizations and stuff. Also, I mean, it takes time to build an organization. This is also important. And also, like, last thing is like maybe one point is in some like the idea of like DAOs are permissionless, which comes from the fact that DAOs are like computer. I mean, initial DAOs like the Ethereum or even like DeFi DAOs are like computer work is executed. I mean, in Ethereum, like work in Bitcoin, Ethereum work is done by computers, and so things are permissionless. And there's this ideal of permissionlessness, and lots of DAOs have been pursuing this. I can think of like, for example, like a bankless DAO, but this comes with a lot of people coming in, people going out. So more and more DAOs are actually like adding up steps in the selection process of participants, both onboarding and offboarding. We started very extreme on many of these aspects, and now we're kind of like going to go back like in the next 3 to 5 years, kind of like merge with like also existing trends. Eventually, a DAO and company or startup are going to be one in some kind of way. It's just about time. We'll do it.
That's a great point, Louis. And I'm wondering, so what do you think the work life is going to look like, the future of work? Is it going to be DAOs? And also you touched a bit on that, but maybe do DAOs have the ability to form and also be larger in scale? Because I feel like at a certain point, isn't it like hard to scale a DAO or to make a DAO grow larger? And you can both join on this question.
I think the future of work looks more like independent contracting. Honestly, like down the line, it's going to be a lot of people that see the opportunity, take the time and upskill, and then we'll be able to just be of a service to people like DAOs or like different businesses. And hopefully we even transform to this full, why I like DAOs, and especially for like business, is because they really embody this idea of like stakeholder capitalism, right? Instead, everybody that puts in also gets out. So it's like, how much stake do you have in the game? So I think that's also what it's going to be shifting to, where you're going to be a part of different projects, and you can be a part of lots of projects, right? One of the tools that I'm working with is all about task management and all the DAOs that you can be a part of, and tracking all that and all your incentives, and paying you directly with whatever crypto that they use, whether that's a governance token or a liquidity token, in so many different ways. And especially for the RawDao, we are all about trying these different tools, knowing that that's coming, and trying to create things like a job board, and like seeing, just like Louis said, seeing all the trends that have been successful in the past, and just doing it a little better in a more decentralized way that, again, makes sense for everyone, because that's all that we're all fighting for, right? We just don't want to be the person at the bottom of that totem pole that does feel like they're doing the most of the work but getting the least out. So just kind of shifting so that what you put in is more equivalent to what you get out. And it's clear for everyone on how they can be a part of that system as well. And I think that is going to be the goal of the workforce shift that's coming.
So yeah, I agree with a lot of things that Mikasa said. Today, the space is still very niche. It's very nerdy. Even handling like multiple tokens and stuff is like, it's a mess. I feel like the same way you kind of like had a niche crowd of like early adopters of the internet who work in open source communities and stuff, and eventually, you know, the mainstream is kind of different. I feel like things are going to be fairly similar in the development of crypto. And so I think things are going to change a lot, but also things are going to be it's partly cynical, but it's also just, I like to frame it as pragmatic, because I've been, so just like my own experience has been like a lot of, there's a lot of ideals in the crypto space, but you know, end of the game is like crypto is extremely small and the world is pretty big. So, you know, crypto will be kind of like, it will be absorbed and like the grow with the rest of the world, but like eventually I feel like things will get much more real. And so I feel like work in 5 years, I mean, we already seeing you know, projects and startups and trends in society towards more autonomy, more decentralization. Okay, as I said, like contractor work and freelancers have been a growing thing for a while. And so crypto is just like embracing these trends also, and maybe enacting them in a more concrete way through technology. But like we're already, I mean, seeing startups that have kind of like participatory governance with their communities on some aspects of their business, whether that's, you know, what's on their platform, or like, you know, it's a design platform, and designs that go to production are voted by customers or something like this. So the models already exist. Also, we already have startups that work with like a lot of contractors and stuff, and that use like, you know, maybe that's Slack and like Discord, but like that have this very fluid model of work. So there's just like a gap to bridge between, you know, what we're seeing in crypto. So I think like things will kind of like meet halfway in a way, and some things will be ported from the crypto model, and some things will be ported from the like current like trad org model. And yeah, I very much agree. Like, you know, work is going to be fluid. All DAO brands are like both consumer brands and employee, you know, employer brands at the same time. So there's this real trend towards like digital heavy, remote, fluid work. All this, it's going to keep going.
I mean, speaking about the future of work, well, some people will think, okay, working remotely is a lot easier, right? Because you're working remotely, so you have your computer in front of you and you can do other stuff. But it turns out that it is not that easy. You actually get consumed because you're not interacting with the physical so much. So you can easily get burnt out. And I can imagine, like, you know, working in a DAO or like being a DAO member, contributor, instigator, like I cannot even imagine the amount of work, you know, like with Mocaso, you know, you've got a lot of people who are now coming into Web3, right? So there's a lot of education going on there. So then that brings me to Louis, because Louis, I know you're mostly focused on mental fitness. I mean, that's really something that is important for the kind of the work you're doing. And I'm wondering, like, do you have any advice, since that's like your expertise? So maybe you can share, some advice that you have for, DAO contributors and like just everyone in Web3 in general.
So I'm definitely not an expert in mental health or anything, just like really passionate about it because life made me passionate about it. My experience is just like, going through, working on in Web3 and in DAOs made me realize how like some of the challenges that could emerge, and some of these challenges are similar in remote work all over the world, but some of them are exacerbated because work is async, it's global. I mean, Mikasa was saying, I'm taking call across time zones, maybe at any time of the day. So this is something you can do for a certain time. I mean, on my end, I know that I cannot do that. Also, like, I mean, the market is one thing. Like of course, you're exposed to the market as an employee in a threshold in a startup or anything, because your company may die or you may be laid off. But here, like, you may out as well. Like, I mean, the tokens are kind of like you like exposed directly to market fluctuations and all these things. So there's a bunch of different things, and also just like I feel like the main thing is like the intensity of like your use of digital tools and how you're hooked to your screen, and kind of like the direct impact that this has on an educated brain. All these like Discords and Twitter and I mean, if you're really leaning into it and using like working in that full time and stuff, yeah, I mean, these tools kind of like require to be intentional when you use them, and to set boundaries and to know how to do that. And if you want to be able to kind of like perform sustainably in the space, you probably need to also like just like founders or executives have coaches, and kind of like have to build up those like skills with regards to emotional intelligence and managing themselves, managing their health. Yeah, I feel like DAO teams are the same. I mean, we're kind of like all a little isolated, especially now. So you have to be able to kind of like manage yourself at a pretty high level. There are two areas to work on. One of these areas is like the organization side, the DAO side. How do you create processes? How do you create cultures? And that actually are going to connect people more, are going to kind of like let them like set or like train them to kind of like set boundaries, fight burnout, be better at managing themselves sustainably and all that stuff. And there's the kind of like direct like individual side of things, like how do we educate people in this space? How do we create at the level of the space a culture where mental fitness becomes something that's valued as something that you do, like the same way physical fitness is something can be tied to some status today, or is appealing, or is interesting, or is is a positive thing that people strive towards, not always in the best way. I agree, but really like shift this mentality of actually can like make people realize that the brain is plastic exactly the same way. It's just we don't see how it looks, but probably a lot of Web3 brains are pretty ugly. They're probably overweight, or they're probably in some way they're probably bad, wired in weird ways. It's really about like raising awareness about that, and just like inviting people to go to the gym, this kind of like mental gym, and exercise together to kind of like get mentally fit and be better able to sustain their daily life, or whether they want to like perform. I mean, all athletes have this kind of like mental fitness thing. Maybe they have coaches, or maybe so I feel like in Web3, like the level of intensity make most people comparable to like kind of like mental athletes. The range of advice can be very broad. So I'm just like really passionate about it. And I'm definitely not like the most knowledgeable expert. I'm in my own mental fitness journey myself, especially the past like 6 to 8 months, which has definitely changed my life. But I mean, that's all the things that relate to the brain health and the body, like meditation, breath work, flow state, NSDR or yoga nidra, all these techniques that you're going to like actually practice. You're going to train yourself, train yourself to relax, train yourself to focus, train yourself to breathe correctly and to be more oxygenated or whatever it is. So like very body level practices. There's also like, how do you design your environment? Are you aware of like what's good for you, what's bad for you, when are you like at your highest energy levels, when you do your best work, when you should probably not work, how to organize yourself, how to prioritize, and goes as deep as, what are actually you want to achieve on the longer time scale, and what are your goals and what are your values and stuff. That's kind of like where it starts. There's this like delineation between I'd say the mental health world, which is basically self-therapy, going through therapy, going through and all these medical professionals area, and mental fitness starts with like coaches and expands towards more like all these practices like meditation and all these things, up to designing your own environment. I feel like for me that's a very, very new thing. It's been existing for, I mean, some of these things. So the challenge here is like to put these things together, put the right people together, and package it in a way that makes sense to especially Web3 people and their problems. And that's kind of like what we're trying to achieve with the Twoplus.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, especially from a DAO member and, just as a DAO founder, DAO member. It's really important for us to keep in mind our physical, mental health, physical health, all of those things, because we cannot be efficient in the digital if our physical is not, firing off on high cylinders as well. And so I think that's just a really great point, everything you mentioned there, Louis, because we have to be connected with other entities like you. And I think that's one of the really great things about like DAOs as well, is how people can just keep connecting and saying like, hey, you have a piece that's great for this, and how can we all just kind of bring it all together? So I think what you're doing is great and definitely really needed in this space.
Yeah, thank you.
Working remotely, but in general, the work-life balance can be very overwhelming with all this new technology and new information coming in and new ideas and projects. So I think it's really going to be super important, because I think there's globally like never been a better time to have something like Twoplus, because we need more people focusing on mental health, I think. So Mokaso, on your side, I know that you're really into the physical to digital, and that it's going to be a huge shift that we are experiencing. For you, I'm wondering, like, what does that mean? Like, how does this will affect the way we workshop, interact with each other? And on your personal level, like, how do you want this to look for RawDao?
Yeah, if you walk outside your door, you can see how everything is changing right now. You go to the store, things are changing. How you talk to people is changing. How we're shopping is changing. And, it was really great. Somebody that I've been working with since kind of the beginning of starting this DAO said it great when they described the RawDao, and they said, the RawDao is always catching lightning in a bottle. And that's exactly how I want people to see us, because I am so serious when it comes to keeping your eyes open, seeing what's happening, learning, and then preparing so that you can use what you just learned to be successful. I'm all about like the proactiveness and the action that has to take part after you learn something, right? Or when you believe in something, there's that action that has to back it up in order to help you be successful. So I want this to look like everybody having a chance to be successful and having an opportunity to create a future that looks, what they would like it to look like. And I know that's not for everybody though. Some people do like just having, a job that you clock in and clock out and like a normal routine. But for those that want to see the opportunity, like a lot of times we compare it to like, oh, back in the 90s when the internet first came, and that's where a lot of people really seeing the opportunities. And when the stock market first came and they seen the opportunities, I want those that see these opportunities to be able to really build a future that makes sense for us all, being able to connect with the builders, everybody just upskilling, learning. Tech can be very scary. Mine is completely crashed. I just got kicked out of here. So it was funny. I was talking to my builders, like I have trust issues with this tech, and it's been like proving that I'm not crazy for having them. But instead of letting any of that deter me ever, it's like, let's just keep learning, keep trucking through this, and then passing on that lesson to the next. So I would love for that to be a whole ecosystem of people bringing everything that they know to just continue to empower each other so that we can continue to seriously get through any issue that comes forward. So, we don't know what a year will look like from now. We can do our best to project, we can do our best to prepare, but I'm sure none of us would have thought 3 years from now, this is where we would be. So, just continuing to surround yourself in an ecosystem. That is one of the main words. I know people like the word community, but it's also about an ecosystem where, it's alive and growing. And again, people are putting in and getting out. It's like fertile land, right? Where you're planting seeds and then you're watching those seeds grow. So that's really how I envision Raw is kind of like that garden. And so I'm just excited to see the fruits of all of our labor, all of us connecting, all of us trying to show people healthier ways to work with each other, healthier ways to build and take advantage of this opportunity to building. And I'm excited to see what we end up building, because every day it's like taking people's ideas that are sharing and going from there. And there's a lot of ideas. So I'm just excited to see everybody, excited again about having ideas and going after them and building in this space.
We captured some tweets, and I think maybe we can go through like 2 of them. Rafa the Builder says, every DAO requires a core game, well-defined player responsibilities and objects which are used as part of the game. Without a well-defined game, the community will have difficulty understanding what roles they can take on and what is the purpose of their participation.
Yes, I love that. Because just like how I kind of mentioned earlier in our conversation with how we are taking this time right now to really develop what our DAO looks like. One of the biggest things we've been tackling is roles, right? Like, okay, we have this mission that's very clear. We have our pillars that's very clear. Now, what are the different things that people can really kind of take focus on? Because I think when you have a DAO and when you talk about like the lack of getting things complete, again, some people just need that direction. If you say, hey, you're in charge of posting on Instagram, we have a person that's just in charge of posting on Instagram, just posting on TikTok, just posting on Twitter. And creating those different roles and also incentives, that you get for completing your roles and completing tasks. So when you think about it like a game and like that, especially like, oh, you need to know the players in the game as well. And the players need to know the rules and everything that comes with it. That's how you get that all-star team when everybody knows exactly what they're supposed to do. And then it also empowers the entire team to be able to help others when they need help. And again, it just really empowers your community to be able to focus in on that task and really, take it to the next level. And that's where you see the beauty of the DAO being able to start manning different initiatives with not so many people because they have somebody that's just focused on that.
In most DAOs, you need to have clear indications and clear rules and incentives and rewards and stuff to play that game. I mean, that's at a very abstract level, a very like concrete level is exactly what Mugasu said for her DAO. And I mean, that's how Ethereum or Bitcoin work. There are like these games. I mean, it's kind of like based on game theory, right? So you have the miners and you have like users of the network, and maybe you have like a third group that's developers. And all incentivized in different ways. And so, I like the idea of a core game. With Twoplus, we're trying to, especially as you're in a global async environment, you want some kind of simple game that people can jump in to, at periodic times or at any given point in time and, pick a role and start playing. And for our course, we're going to use Moshi, and which is a very interesting tool to build habits and be held accountable to it. And there's interesting like game dynamics with how the course participants will be able to use it. And so I think it's a really relevant tweet, and it's important to be specific, I think, and all the vagueness that DAOs can bear.
This Twitter quote is by Anthony Avedissian. If the most successful DAOs and communities coordinate using subgroups, pods, guilds, and circles, DAO tools should design themselves accordingly and focus on facilitating seamless cross-group coordination rather than viewing DAOs as one static organization. So what are you guys' thoughts about that?
I definitely agree with that. And there are some really great builders in the space, and that's why I always emphasize it's the builders. We are all the builders. And when you tell somebody that you have a problem and they're a builder, they're going to go and build a solution. So the more builders that get into these DAOs and start seeing these holes and these gaps, they're building these solutions. And it's on us, the DAOs, to give them a chance and try them and hear what they have going on and see if it works. And so one of the tools that we've been trying is called Wonderverse. And next quarter, we'll actually be diving into it a lot more. But yeah, the tools are definitely important. And it's so funny. One of the things we do are how-to videos on YouTube for Raw TV. And it's how to use all this stuff. We have like random things about how to add Discord bots into Discord because it helps. How to automate your Instagram posts because it helps, you know. The A in DAO is literally for automation. So you have to have the tools to be able to help you so that you're successful, because although we are all about human empowerment as well and doing as many things peer-to-peer as possible, it's also to involve the digital because you can't run from it. So anything that you can automate, it's just going to make your DAO that much more efficient. And that's what also becomes the key with this new organization, you know, so that people can focus their energy on those talents, on the creating and letting the automation do what it can to just kind of keep it running, whether, again, that's just posting 3 times a day on Instagram so that you're not now, right? And little things like that. So finding the tools that really work for what you need, it looks different for everyone because every organization has a different mission, has a different community, has different beliefs. And if you don't see a tool that works for you, again, don't be afraid to create it, I would say, because if you need that tool, someone else can need that tool. And again, that's where the builders are made during these kind of revolutions that we're living through.
We tend to see like DAOs is like these entire organizations and basically like it's suggesting that there are like these subgroups and what they describe as like subgroups, pods, guilds inside the DAO, which are like maybe the groups of like 5 to, I don't know, 15, 20 people, maybe 50 if the DAO is really large. But like this, like let's say a DAO is like a large group of like 1,000 people. Within them you have like 10 subgroups of like, you know, 15 to 30 people. That's more or less like what Bankless DAO would look like. And so basically what Anthony is suggesting is like DAO tool builders should build tools that are going to help all these different subgroups operate with each other. So, you know, cross-group coordination. So it's still like very abstract how that translates. Yeah, I think as a general idea, like, yeah, DAO tools are already like, it's already interesting, like how did you build a DAO tool? It's still like so much, to me, like so many question marks as to like, how do you actually like design tools for these people? I think one of these ways, like you have to adapt like permissions and maybe so these pods, like maybe they're all like holding like member in one group or pod in sub DAO, like they're holding an NFT that gives them access to a tool in a different way than another pod in the same organization. So it's gonna like access permissioning, maybe we would change the experience, and maybe in that way, like this kind of like product design philosophy changes. So it was such a wide open space of questions.
Yeah, no, and I really like that point that you made there, Louis, because even thinking about the different groups that like we have in the RawDao, we really separated just into like 5 groups where we have engineers, creatives, educators, moderators, and strategists, right? Because it's like when you think about an organization, we look at people like Ralph Lauren, who was really into digital fashion before digital fashion was digital fashion, and how they got started was just by having creatives to create and engineers to engineer, and then also giving a very black and white, that can be cohesive for both, but also, like you said, empowering that certain groups also have certain abilities that others do not, so that you now start gaining more access to the community as you level up and move on throughout the community. So I definitely think having those, again, set and clear for the community on how they can move around and what kind of access they will gain in the community, that is just as important. And especially when we talk a lot about how it's hard to retain people because, we're not paying right now. And a lot of DAOs are going for grants. And now this market is not helping any of us, a lot of just community incentives and looking at incentivizing a community a different way by using that kind of stuff as leverage definitely helps, especially when it's like, hey, we're still young. I always tell people, add this to your own portfolio. You're building your own Web3 resume right now. You'll be able to add that you took the RawDao's Instagram from 100 followers to 100,000, or that you built our website, or that you were able to do this as well, as we're all coming up. So, when you take that tweet and then also put it into that individual and say how now you're also again, upskilling that individual member for being a part of that community, that's just when you get a successful DAO. So I think that was a great point you made as well.
Yeah, wow. It's really nice hearing your different perspectives and, like hearing the common, the patterns or the similarities as well. And I wanted to quickly ask before we wrap up that, Makasso, if you had one question for Louis, what would it be? And Louis, if you had one question for Makasso, what would it be?
Sure. I would say, as one question, what would be one thing you would say communities can do to keep their community grounded and not getting burnout? We used to have like weekly yoga sessions, but then, like you said, when you're not able to pay somebody, it comes down to people just wanting to do. And we want to be able to pay people as well in our community for doing what they're doing. So aside from that, something I try to tell people is like, just have a work-life balance. I even myself have started to have clock out times, as I like to say, like I'm available all morning, but after noon until maybe 6 o'clock that evening, I'm not available because I don't just want my entire day full of things. So I've tried to give these little tidbits to community members, like set your own boundaries, set one day that maybe you don't come to Raw at all, or maybe, a day that you do come to Raw and that's when you do everything, but just trying to find some type of like healthy balances to give the community so that they do take care of their physical just as much as they are the digital, because that is truly what's important to me and other community members, as well as making sure that their peers are okay in all ways.
Yeah, totally. I think you're going about it right. It has to be baked in the, from scratch, and in the culture, and the intention is really important, because it's going to be really hard to turn around like a whole culture once the organization has momentum and people have picked up habits and stuff. The rules are the same as to like, how to create a good culture in other organizations, which are like, creating connection among people, making sure, people can have spaces to connect and chat with each other, not only about work, but also like, I feel like creating a culture of vulnerability has been, important for, especially at Twoplus. That's something that I wanted to naturally do. Like, if you get to be able to kind of like bring your whole self, and to say things the way they are. And, this kind of like, ability to be vulnerable really helps, just like, people connect with each other, create trust with each other, and eventually just like easier also to just even collaborate. But yeah, you said it, that just like having habits of setting boundaries, maybe that's, not being live on Discord at certain times of the day, and having these norms in the organization or whatever platform that you use, making sure that, things are, I think it's also in the processes, like all the tools that you use, like make sure you don't multiply too many tools at once, that, educate things are implemented gradually, that education is made around that, just to avoid like, the kind of like tool fatigue and having to even just like deal with another platform or tool And yeah, I think like overall, in the longer term, I think we think that the same way Web2 startups can like give like gym memberships to, or like pretty much any company today gives gym memberships to their employees, like DAOs should like provide in the future. DAOs will provide like this kind of mental fitness memberships, mental fitness gym memberships, because I mean, and there are so many good like resources and apps and stuff, and maybe also there's like this kind of like wellness center somewhere in like the knowledge base that you use, where you have like register, maybe even like being in touch with like a few coaches, a few therapists that you can, you know, put your people in touch with in case of, you know, burnout or anything. And even before burnout, they're cool, like, yeah, creating like syncs or check-ins to make sure that, you know, people are not we have this kind of like daily energy check-in channel in Twoplus, where people just come in and say, you know, what's the mood and why, just like, you know, at a very personal level. So that can be a team-based practice. It can be like organization-wide practice. These things really kind of like also invite people to share, to be authentic, and to also are useful to spot, like, you know, this person is just like pushing way too hard and is going to be burn out next week. So let's just like invite them to take a step back for a day or something like this, to avoid, you know, because I think even just like, yeah, burnout is really harmful to everyone. No doubt that you're going in the right direction here. Yeah, on my end, I yeah, just want to check in, like, what's your mindset, you know, moving into this bear market, you know, as the founder and leader of a DAO, you know, what's kind of like, yeah, how do you feel about it, and how's it impacted, you know, kind of like the way you're thinking about things now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And honestly, for me, for the bear market, the only shift that it has made is because a lot of what we were doing to prepare was kind of in that mindset, like, hey, let's put our ducks in a row so that we can start applying for grants and start, you know, trying to fund a real team to really see some of our big visions through. But right now that, you know, now we're in this bear market, it's not necessarily shifting in totality, but it's now more like, let's put together some really great work to really back up a lot of the things we're talking about, so that now as we're talking about it, people understand what we're doing and our work is showing, instead of us having to talk so much. So now, you know, we put on workshops that are community led and designers showing how to go in and make avatars on DAS 3D or on Ready Player Me, and or builders showing about metaverses, and just, you know, taking this time to educate the community and say, hey, this is what's happening. Here's how you can use the metaverse. Again, for the reason why this fashion show is so important is because it's not the end of the showcase. It's just the start, where now all of these artists who have these displays, they can tell any collector that wants to buy their NFT, they can go into the metaverse and go check out their display before buying the NFT. And we use QR codes so you can, you know, actually access the link right from watching it on YouTube if we have it live streamed, or different things like that. So again, just showing designers how they can use these tools to really take that next step. And so reminding people, this is that time, you know. This is also the time that institutional investors and those big people that are looking for what projects are going to make it, this is that time that, again, we prove that we are out here for the long run, and that we're not going to stop building. And, you know, again, just putting a lot of that money where our mouth is by still building regardless of anything that happens, and being there to also show people we are very transparent. Because we're all learning, you know, we encourage everybody from different backgrounds. So we never try to be perfect. And it's so funny, I'm actually a poet as well. One of my first poems was about, or one of my first NFT was a poem, and I wrote about imposter syndrome. And I had never felt like I experienced that before. But being here when I was in the metaverse, like I told you guys, I was in here every single day. The metaverse was crashing. My builders were, you know, at the actual MetaFest that's happening right now that we're in collaboration with. And I'm in that moment, like, why did I even put myself in this position? Like, I know how to build a metaverse, and everybody's asking me these questions. And then it was so crazy, because then I tried to do a voice call and that crashed. And I'm like, I was trying to mint an NFT and that crashed. And I'm like, seriously, even the little things that I do know isn't working, and it, it just reminds you again that we're still pushing through regardless. I my computer was completely out of order for like 2 days. So, you take that time, regroup, clean my whole house, kind of shifted that energy. And now back on the floor, ground running, and, still just going. So just always reminding people, even if you have to take that break, even if you have to take that moment to regroup and reground and re-strategize, still don't forget to keep going and forget where your mission is, because that's how you're going to prove to people that they want to be a part of this as well, because you guys are going to seriously be hitting that mission, and all of this will be worth it in the end, however that looks like to you, whether that's, more skills, more community, more support because you're selling NFTs, or more whatever that you can get from that. So, just kind of keeping that mindset, also kind of bringing that crypto in, and again, by reminding people like, hey, institutional investors like buying low. Okay, so right now you can buy our t-shirt NFT that we just minted, that's about mental health. And right now it's like 2.45 ETH because we donate part of the proceeds to a suicide hotline. But right now it's kind of on sale because ETH just went down. But if you hold on to it, that value will kind of go back up if ETH goes back up, kind of thing. So just kind of reminding people of those kind of crypto basics. Like if you get in now, then you'll see things shift when the market starts to shift as well. And again, taking the time to just educate on all of the different facets that come together in the space that we're in. So, and like Salimi said, educating is not always the easiest because especially when you're working with designers and artists, or we had like a 14-year-old, and I'm like, where's your parents? Because they need to know about taxes, and you're going to be doing NFTs, and you just get crossed by so many people from so many different backgrounds, and some have so much more knowledge than you in some areas, and you just have to always be open to learning from each other and being able to fill in those gaps so that you guys can get to the next step. So just take the time to build and learn. And, when everything is back up, rock and rolling, people will see that. And, hopefully the support will be returned from the community.
Thank you both so very much for this, mentally stimulating conversation, really. I'm still thinking about some of the stuff you spoke about. And I'm pretty sure our amazing community, as well as listeners, would love to follow you on your social platform.
So you can follow, and I would definitely say, I would suggest to follow the RawDao, because that is where we are posting all of our updates. So that will be the_raw_DAO. And you can find us there on Instagram, TikTok, or Twitter at the_raw_DAO. And again, we are always open to collaborating. So if you're an artist, an NFT, we have musicians with talent shows, we have authors that are connecting their Amazon books, builders that are just importing their spaces that they built that they always needed something to do with. We are that ecosystem that wants to be able to connect those bridges. And so if you're listening to this and you're looking for an ecosystem that you want to be a part of, that's all about that. RawDao is the place to be. So we hope to see you guys, and just know we have a lot in store as well. So super excited.
Nice. Yeah, on our end, it's Twoplus_XYZ. So check it out. Yeah, we're working on this early course. Hopefully we'll have new cohorts starting in Q3. And yeah, thank you so much, guys, Newforum and everyone for this conversation. That was awesome. So yeah, have a great day.
Thank you both for joining us today. And also, if you guys want to get more involved within our community, make sure to follow us on our social platforms. We are on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, and we are Newforum_NCO and also Newcoin. And we also have a Discord, and we're going to leave all of the links in the description. Thank you so much, Louis and Mokasa. It's a really pleasure to have you within the community and discuss these things, and see you in the next episode.